Hey guys, welcome back. Last we talked about was proteins, and I told you we're going to continue it because the sections are going to be just too long, right? And I just wanted to give a quick summary to what we were talking about as far as proteins go. So proteins, again, they can do everything, and the one big example we've been using a lot was so long that I had to stop it was enzymes. And then the last slide I showed you was enzymatic reactions, as well as what happens with the normal amount of energy that you need to create a reaction. And I told you again, it was kind of like with matches, right? So if I had a match, I need to push really, really hard to light it. But if I have an enzyme or a catalyst that can speed up that reaction, I can get the same result of lighting the fire, lighting the match. However, not put as much energy in. And so I just wanted to give you a quick summary of what I said the last time. So for enzymes, what they do is, one, they speed up the reaction. Okay, how do they do it? By lowering, sorry, the trackpad's a little bad. Oh my goodness, that's terrible. Let's try that again. All right, speed up reaction, sorry, by lowering activation energy. Okay, now the third one, which is what we were saying over here, is that whatever it is the end result is still the same. What does that mean again is when I mentioned last time, just because you use a catalyst doesn't mean you get more energy. It just makes getting to the energy faster and the investment less. So what you need to put in is less than what you, but your end result is still the same. End result is still the same. Okay, so that is what we said last. So that was a quick summary. All right, so the question is, how do things fit into here, which is very important because again, the chapter we're going into next is going to use this. There's two models. The old model used to be called a lock and key, and that's why it's not exactly a lock and key anymore. If you have your key, if you know, so I had to change my locks, and what it is pretty cool. It's like a whole bunch of these little prongs here. When your key comes in, it moves a few of them, and then whatever that combination of them are, the lock will then open. Pretty interesting, right? So the original idea was that a lock and key like it would fit exactly the way it is, but we know that that's not the case anymore, right? The enzyme is more like grabbing it. So if this is like a glove and this is the enzyme and this is your substrate, which is anything an enzyme works on, as it comes in, there's an attraction that pulls it and grasps onto it. Okay, so when I mentioned the attraction, right, you kind of sounds familiar because I've been bashing this comments into your brain about hydrogen bonds, right? And remember, hydrogen bonds are the attraction between pluses and minuses. Very good, right? So if it has the right pluses and the right minuses, it fits exactly where it's supposed to and it closes on it. Okay, perfect. So here's my Angry Asian Pac-Man. The reason why I call it Angry Asian because I am a terrible drawer. And it looks like Pac-Man, right? And all I do is that. So yeah, all right, there's my Pac-Man. So the first thing is a substrate is very unique to whatever it works on. So we got a square, I can do a rectangle, I can do a circle, and I can do a triangle. The question is, what happens with what, right? So first, what's very important is enzymes only work on specific substrates. Enzyme will only match specific substrates, and I'm going to put quotes because you got to know what a substrate is, and a substrate again is anything an enzyme is working on. So in this case, this triangle, it's not the same, but whatever, will fit in the mouth, and it is here because of these dots, right? Now, what are the dots again? Remember, the dots are the hydrogen bonds. This is good. This allows the connection between them to happen and for the enzyme to do its job. Okay, and these are all different kind of substrates. Okay, so if we take a look at a real picture, not my glorious drawings, right? We got our substrate, anything an enzyme is working on. And you're going to notice that it will fit exactly to the T. It's going to be drawn in because what you do not see are these little hydrogen bonds attracting them in, right? And then it will do whatever duty it needs. In this case, it will break it. And when it breaks this bond, it then releases the product, okay? So now, here's another interpretation of it. Again, here's our enzyme sucrase. Here is our substrate sucrose. And you're going to notice that it's going to fit in again because there's these imaginary dots in here, these attractions between positives and negatives. Once it enters into the enzyme will allow to reduce the activation energy and the energy necessary to break that bond between them. And then what happens? The two reactants become products, and these products come off, and then we repeat it again. Okay. So one thing I wanted to clarify first is that enzymes, a lot of them we think about are going to be for taking things apart, which is the first two I showed you, like the digestive enzymes and the enzymes we're going to talk about in the immune system, all do break things down. But there are enzymes that put things together too, so I just wanted to show you that real fast. So first off, we got the substrate, right? Could be two pieces fitting in perfectly, and then what happens is the enzyme will, instead of breaking them apart, will actually attach them together, and now we have a new product. And this is how you can build things. Okay, so quick summary. Most enzymes are proteins, but not all proteins are enzymes, right? Okay, enzymes are biological catalysts, blah, blah, blah. You can read this. I'm not going to read that. Here's what's important, what I wanted to underline and highlight. Okay, two things. First off, the enzyme has a special name. Not always, but most of them will have this ACE. So if you picked it up earlier, lipase, right, breaks down fats, which is lipids. Pretty interesting, right? Amylase breaks down starch, and that's not really close. Lactase breaks down milk sugar, which is lactose. Earlier I showed you this picture, right? Well, what did I say? I said sucrase breaks down sucrose. So you're seeing a lot of these ACEs popping around everywhere. ACE, 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 right? And these are indications of an enzyme. Okay. All right. Now, what is also important is when I drew my little Pac-Man here, this mouth itself, it is what allows the enzyme to come in. So let me redraw it because it's easy to draw what I just did, right? So we have this part here. Oh, that looks actually prettier. All right. This mouth here, the mouth of the enzyme actually has a specific name. This mouth is called an active site, which is pretty good because isn't this where all the activity is going to happen, right? Isn't that going to be in the mouth? Good. So the active site is the mouth of the enzyme. And in here you have these hydrogen bonds that are going to match whatever substrates correlating hydrogen bond. Okay, that was easy enough. What I was getting to next is, why do we add heat to things? Why does our stomach temperature raise? Why do we have acids, etc.? Because there's a term called denaturation. Now, this part is going to be tricky, which is why it has its own video, okay? And if you're going to link the past video to this, because remember when I talked about primary, secondary, tertiary, and remember, quaternary is just everything, a couple of them all together. Quaternary structures, right, of proteins, and they have it. Well, if I had my angry Asian Pac-Man, right, isn't this made by those weird shapes, right? I can even have a loop here, I can have a swirl here, zigzag here, but remember that I showed you earlier that all proteins are made of these combinations, okay? But remember, the simplest basic form is the primary structure, right? It's the primary, the first one. Okay, very, very important. If you have to watch the first video, watch that part again because we're going to use it now. All right, so we talk about things that can cause denaturation. Temperature. Salinity, we're not going to really talk about this guy too much, but I got to put it in for the definition. pH, very important, right? And there's other chemical extremes, but these two here we're going to talk about a lot in the human body with temperature and pH specifically, okay? So what it does is this. It will take your protein, which again, you have your, right? I'm just drawing in everyone, your different structures all in here. But when you add something like pH, so like stomach acid, right? Or the pH or the acidic environment of a lysosome, okay? What happens is it will take your secondary, which are the loops, and remember they're held together by hydrogen bonds. They will take, those are alpha helix. They will take these beta sheets, which again are held by hydrogen bonds. They will take this tertiary structure, which is I call like a magic lasso, right? With an ionic bond. I'm just going to put ion because I don't have space, which also has this disulfide bridge, hydrophobic interactions, as well as a hydrogen bond. It takes all of that, right? And what it'll do is, and remember, just the quaternary is just everything, right? Just all together. But it will begin to break these small weak interactions. So you have an ion bond, which is plus and minus. That's weaker than a covalent bond, right? It's really, really hard to break a covalent bond. But if this is a hydrogen bond here, I can break that. If this is a weak interaction in the ionic bond, I can break that. I can break this bond here that's holding these loops together. I can also break these bonds holding these beta sheets together. So what happens then is that I remove the secondary structures, I remove a lot of the tertiary, which essentially removes the quaternary structure, making it into more of a primary structure. Now, you notice this has no shape, it's just random amino acids just in a line, just happen to be hanging around. Because it does that, it now changes the shape of the enzyme. If it changes the shape of the enzyme, it changes the shape of the mouth, or what you need to know, the active site. And if the active site or the mouth doesn't fit, it can't attach, rendering your enzyme not working. It's just not going to function, right? So here's a better picture, right? We got our normal protein. Take a look. You can see the little loops over here, right? You see the alpha helix, right? Over here, you got your little beta sheet. It might be hard to see on your computer screen. It's a little fuzzy on mine. But remember, denaturation with pH, salinity, and temperature, as well as other chemical extremes. Again, we're going to really focus on these in class, however, so I'm just listing those. What happens? Well, they begin to unravel, and then the protein begins to change. And you're like, oh, that's pretty cool. You have seen this countless times. You probably don't even remember. Here's where. I'm going to erase that. I said temperature. Proteins, as you know, is the primary source in meat. Think about this. If you eat sushi or sashimi, right? Ahi. Let's just pretend you're eating ahi tuna, okay? So you're having ahi sashimi, right? You get a nice little cut. We know the taste, we know the flavor, right? And if you do eat the fish, of course. And then you cook that exact ahi meat. Does it taste the same? Now, don't add any salt, pepper, any other kind of flavoring, but just cooking it alone changes the flavor entirely. Wow, interesting, huh? Same thing with steak. I mean, at high-end restaurants, again, don't try it at home, but at high-end restaurants, you can order steak tartare, which is like sashimi steak. It's a higher grade steak. Again, so don't try it at home. Please go to a restaurant and eat it. But they offer that too. But that steak tartare is totally different than cooked steak. Other times, well, did you know that you can cook salmon, and there are recipes online, and I've tried them before, right? With just lemon juice? You're like, what? Yeah, because lemon juice has a pH, it's acidic. And what does it do is it changes the flavor of your salmon to a different flavor by denaturing it. And it serves a few purposes. One, it serves the purpose of changing the flavor. You know, sometimes people like it more, but how's this one? Take a look at this. How hard your body would have to work because your body then has to add the pH from your stomach and all these other places to break all these down. Then what happens is it finally gets into a shape where you can break these down, because you're going to have to chop up these proteins and use them back in your body again, right? You don't absorb long chains. If this is a chain of amino acids, right, and I just put boxes around them, your job is to cut those boxes and take one amino acid out at a time and then reform it for you. Because remember the analogy I give you for amino acid? Isn't it just a brick? We can't use a house to build another house. We got to break the house down. We got to take those small bricks and then reuse them to build your new house, which is your body, your cells, whatever you need it for, okay? But when you cook, what it does is your temperature will then take all of these bonds and break them down a little easier. So your body has an easier time digesting the food that you ate. Pretty interesting, huh? Now we're going to talk more in class. Again, these videos are supplementive, so it doesn't replace our lecture class, but if you notice that it gives us a time to reflect and go back on things very specifically. I do hope they help. I am buying a new computer very, very soon, because if you notice, sometimes there's an audio video lag and I don't like that. So I'm buying a brand new computer. I bought a green screen. I'm going to go all out for you guys, because I think there's nothing more important than a good education. And I think the small investment I make personally will go a longer investment on you, especially on these hard times during the COVID. All right. So you guys take care of yourselves. Be healthy. I will see you soon. Have a good day.